Hello, everyone. In this episode, I have with us a climate change expert, and I do mean he's an expert. So let's listen to him. Right now, we have with us Mr. Manoj Yadav. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think I can start with a little bit of my background and then sort of introduction, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
So, so my name is Manoj. I'm working as an independent consultant in the field of climate change, climate finance to be precise. I was working with GIZ, which is the German Bilateral Cooperation Agency, until February this year. And in that sense, I'm fairly new to consulting as an individual. Um, I was with GIZ for almost 11 years, and I had the privilege to work on various projects and assignments within my time at GIZ. Although it was my second stint, I took a break in between, and I studied another master's degree. Um, but coming back was extremely familiar in that sense, and it was just the kind of the first year of COVID, so that way it was in retrospect a good decision, I will say. In terms of educational background, I started with bachelor's in business administration. Then I did my master's in business administration. I specialized in rural management. That gave me a very different flavor from typical management uh, exposure that we have in terms of mainstream
Mm,
marketing, finance,
mm,
operations management, and what have we. Um, we focus more on community in the sense that uh, what are the challenges that they face, and how businesses can address some of those challenges.
mm.
So once I completed my MBA, I did my
And where
first
was
job at
this from? Was
Ujjivan.
this from Irma or some other place?
It from XIMB, from Xavier Institute of Management. Uh,
Okay.
so
Yeah. All right.
yeah, right. So so then so during my time at XIMB, Mr. Samit Ghosh, who was the founder of Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, he visited campus, and then his talk was extremely engaging. It was kind of, I will say, one of the sort of early days of microfinance, and it was quite inspiring to hear his thoughts. How he was a banker, uh, and he left his traditional mainstream finance career, pretty lucrative, I must say, to start uh, a financial entity that lends to low-income women entrepreneurs, which is which has traditionally been up to that point in time bad risk, to put
Yeah.
it very precisely. And
Yeah.
and, the, and basically it's a thesis why Muhammad Yunus got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Correct.
That was
Yeah.
my first professional engagement.
Yeah. And after that?
So I worked there for 3 years. I was in product and credit, designing and delivery of financial products and services to low-income women entrepreneurs. Before I left, I was managing a portfolio of 1.1 million low-income women entrepreneurs.
Mm,
After that, I joined very briefly a micro pension consulting firm, and it was just less than 6 months, I will say. And so that kind of rounded off my experience: microcredit, microinsurance, and the micro pension.
mm,
And I must say that the idea was a bit ahead of its time. We worked primarily on national pension scheme. There was a subsection of there was a sort of a variant of the program called Swavlamban, in which the government of India used to co-contribute to the corpus. And there were certain eligibility conditions where low-income groups
mm,
were encouraged to enroll.
mm.
Yeah, so that was my second stint, but then it didn't last long. I fortunately got the opportunity to work with GIZ. It was kind of a chance happening. And my thesis was let me figure it out for a year and then see how it goes. And then it ended up being 11-year long stint. So that way it was, yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Unexpected turn, but it turned out very rewarding.
Yeah. And then?
So, yeah, so I joined GIZ in what it was late 2012,
Yeah.
12 years now ago. And then I worked on various programs and projects. GIZ, for those who don't know, it's a bilateral cooperation agency, and its mandate is to fulfill the priorities agreed upon between the two governments
Yeah.
wherever GIZ is operating.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were projects that, but my role was primarily in those projects that addressed the rural finance requirements or needs. We worked with NABARD, for example,
Hmm.
and then yeah, financial inclusion, literacy
Yeah.
awareness programs,
Yeah.
those kind of things. Yeah.
But then where did climate enter all this?
So in 2013, I started working on a project that was about how remote sensing and GIS can be used for food security, for sort of understanding the impacts of extreme weather events like floods or droughts and cyclones, for example, on agriculture, food crops.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, we didn't use terminologies like AI, machine learning, climate
Yeah.
change, but then it was basically about, to put it very simply, we were answering two questions. One is where, and then second one is how much.
Yeah.
Where is the loss occurring in terms of the crop losses, and to
Hmm.
what extent the damage has been done. So the economic value of that loss was assessed, and it was novel in 2012 because at that point in time, using satellite data for large area estimation or loss assessment because of disasters, extreme weather event disasters were not that common, you
Yeah.
know. So it was so that's where climate came in, but then explicitly climate came in 2020 when I joined GIZ once again. So my project was on addressing physical risks of climate change.
Yeah.
Formally, the name was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so how do you assess the risks these days? I don't want to, if you have some specific project or vaguely you can tell us about something, how do you assess these
Mhm.
risks?
So the risk assessment is, in my opinion, pretty much dependent upon uh, the sector that we are looking at. So I will take sectoral approach and I will talk about agriculture, which is what I'm most familiar with,
Yeah.
a little bit of infrastructure as well. But then
Yeah.
from agricultural point of view, the biggest asset that farmers have out there is the standing crop.
Yes.
So there are different types of crops: food crops, horticulture crops. We have
Yeah.
perennial crops like rubber, plantation crops like coconut, coffee,
Yeah.
spices, some of
Yeah.
them. So there's a whole range of assets which are out there, and there is an underlying economic value of that asset. The the risk assessment is basically to understand to what extent that economic value has been compromised
Yeah.
given climate change, and it's non-linear in nature, and that's where the complexity comes in,
Hmm.
because the what used to be a once in a century or once in a few decade event is pretty much happening every alternate year. So one of the projects I worked, where we were sort of assessing the impact of floods or droughts or cyclones on paddy crops. In Tamil Nadu, there was a severe flood in 2015, so a lot of farmers were badly affected. But then in 2017, there was a once in a century drought.
Yeah.
And then the year after, there was a cyclone. So,
Yeah.
so it was, back to back
Yeah.
extreme weather events, and that kind of breaks the resilience.
Yeah.
It compromises the ability of communities to bounce back because there is so much you can take, and then but anyway, so the physics so the to come back to your question, the assessment is basically incumbent upon what kind of asset or infrastructure
Mm,
or kind of sector we are looking at. And then
mm,
there are certain tools and techniques, because
mm.
I worked on remote sensing GIS, so you can cover large area in very quick time.
Yeah.
Flood lasts for sometimes few hours to few weeks, and that needs rapid assessment.
Yeah.
For that, you can't do physical assessment. There are limitations to it in terms of accuracy and validity and timeliness. So remote sensing GIS could be one technique. I mean, we can go in detail, but very broadly speaking, modern technology has had rather positive impact. Social media is another, that can also be another way to assess it.
Uh, I heard that some drones are also used to assess the situation rather than just satellite data. Is that true?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, that is true because there are certain fast onset events. So there is a temporal dimension to losses, and then
Yeah.
these damages are sometimes localized. So there is a
Mm,
spatial component to it.
mm,
So, and satellite data by definition is large scale. You have,
yeah.
several thousands of kilometers covered. But then if there's a hailstorm, for example, and a very small part of a particular farm is affected, really the technology is not relevant. And then there is satellite pass every few days, at least 12 days or 10 days, or depending on the satellite.
Mm,
So you can't then capture that loss that happens in a matter of minutes. For that, drones are critical. Drones, in fact, I saw the application first time
mm.
during a couple of cyclonic events in Tamil Nadu when majority of the coconut plantation was adversely affected. So the drones were used to assess partial losses, no losses, or total losses, in terms
Yeah.
of to what degree the coconut tree has been flattened.
Yeah.
It really turned out to be quite accurate because a lot of the times we see there is a kind of a back and forth movement between
Mm,
state government and central government on how much is the extent of losses and how much the
yeah.
compensation should be. So that to a large degree has been settled thanks to technology. So drone was used there, and then of course the fertilizer application, the pesticide application. I fortunately flew drones for maybe 5 to 7 minutes or 10 minutes in my life, so that's little experience I have had.
But
A pesticide or a herbicide carrying drone, fertilizer carrying drone. Yeah.
okay, but these drones now, are they made in India or are they imported?
Depends on the type of drones. There are fixed wing drones which really are used more for area estimation or loss estimation. Then there are sort of quadcopters, and they can be assembled. Some parts are imported, and now we have DGCA sort of coming up with very stringent norms. It's not like 2015, no. So
Yeah.
now it's you have to have been licensed by the appropriate authority, and then you need to take prior permission in terms of flight path, what have you.
Mm.
So yeah, it has been it has become a lot more regulated, and I will say safer actually.
And just out of curiosity, because I do talk to tech people at times, uh, do you also think that drones are useful when there is no loss, but just to have daily operations of the farm and so on? Are they at all helpful, or how do you see it?
I think there is a novelty factor here because it's a new toy. Uh, from a certain point of view, it's extremely helpful piece of technology. From others, extremely other point of view. I think drones by themselves are not going to solve the basic fundamental problems. For example, small land holding.
Yeah.
No matter how many drones we fly, it's not going to change. That's a independent variable.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, drones are nice, but then they're icing on the cake. They're not the cake. The cake is
Okay.
agricultural productivity, farm security, income. These kind of things.
Okay. All right. And you know, you said that now you are an independent consultant. Is this how you want to be in the future, or is it a coincidence or an accident? I mean, I don't want to be too personal about it, but it's
Sure.
unusual to see somebody becoming an independent consultant at your
Yeah.
age, perhaps. But just
Yeah.
tell us
Yeah.
about it if you want to. Otherwise, we'll switch to some other topic.
No, sure, sure. I mean, I'm happy. My contract ended in February, so I
Yeah.
thought it's a good chance to sort of uh, test this. I always wanted to do this, but then the security on of that monthly income, that is
Yeah.
so intoxicating. It it just doesn't let you
Uh,
try new things.
mm,
And then I'm also doing my part-time PhD
mm,
at IIM Lucknow.
mm.
And I just finished my 2 year of coursework. So all the books that you see in the first row are from
Yeah.
IIM Lucknow.
Okay.
So
So
I
what's
thought,
the
maybe, yeah.
sorry, go
Hmm.
ahead. Not, please go ahead.
No, you are asking, please,
No,
please.
I'm only asking what's the topic of the PhD.
Okay, sure, sure. So my topic of the PhD will be climate finance, and my department is Department of Business Sustainability. But I can talk about it a bit later. I think you were sort of why this thing and why now? I think that's the question, isn't it?
No, it's not a
Why?
question. It's just some, people. Uh, I'm sort of trying to highlight that
Hmm.
uh, for today's generation, life is not what I call as linear and safe. For my
Yeah.
generation, life was linear and safe, right? You
Right.
got into one thing and you stuck to it, and for the rest of your life, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
One path, take it, go with it. And
Sure.
today, I mean, by the age group of people who are like 18 or 19, you are ancient. Okay? I'm sorry, but you are for them
Hmm.
because they tell me that the 22 is the next generation is 18 years old. So they think 4 years have changed India so much. But even you at, fairly comfortable age are no longer linear. That was the point.
True.
It's not linear and safe because
Yeah.
there's so many options.
Right.
And the Indian economy has thrown up options for people, which
Yeah.
if they have the guts, they take them. You need the guts. As you said, the security of the monthly income is there. But you have to, if you have the guts, then you can say, this is not for me. I'm going to do something else. And that's what I want to highlight. That look,
Hmm.
I wrote on LinkedIn that India used to be safe and linear. You one job, one wife, one house. Okay. Don't ask questions.
Right.
Just do it. Okay. But today,
Right.
and I tell this story of a doctor here in the US. He wrote that, in the 1950s, he wanted to be an engineer. So he joined the local engineering college. In those days, IITs had hardly, were not even there, maybe one, okay, Kharagpur. But his father wanted to be a doctor, right? So when the college went on a college tour of some place or the other, his father went to the college and told the principal, how can my son become an engineer when I want him to be a doctor? Why do you allow him to do that? So the principal said, no, 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 this is wrong. I'll change all his courses to medical. So when the fellow came back, the principal summoned him and said, hey, you are out of all engineering courses. Now you are in medical. He said, no, sir. He says, hey, don't talk to me. You couldn't talk to your principal, obviously, in those days.
Right.
There was no way to say no to your college principal. You just
Yeah.
had, you didn't even have to say yes, sir. It was understood. So he became a doctor. That's it, safe and linear. So now you are risky and non-linear. That's the point I want to make,
Right.
not
Right.
your personal point.
Sure. Sure. No, I mean, but then what I will say is that that so-called agency that the new generation has found is they're deriving it from the previous generation stability.
Yeah,
So there is a path dependency here very clearly.
yeah,
So I will not, I will not, there is some credit that needs to be given to the previous generation because of their stability. Uh, this generation is able to think, and then of course there are sociological, there are technological changes now, which, yeah. So I mean, that's a separate conversation. But then for
yeah.
me, I don't know. I think. I like to challenge myself because presently it's not a very comfortable position.
Yeah.
Um, uh, in a full-time job, you email people. I jokingly call it like you email people about a meeting, and then once the meeting is done, you write an email about that meeting.
Yeah.
And then, and then and the same story repeats.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, I think the path of an independent consultant is it's quite challenging and rewarding at the same time because uh, you have to pitch your idea and then scout for clients. It could be like 20 days, 15 days worth of work, and then
Yeah.
this whole cycle, from
Yeah.
proposal to
Yeah.
delivering and then invoicing and then contract closure. So it's satisfying. But then I also understand because I worked in one place for 11 years, which is a sizable amount of time. So I have what I will call depth of experience. But then I think what I'm after is also some breadth of experience because to have a well-rounded sort of professional personality, it's important to be able to connect the dots, but then also to be able to stay in one place to observe deeply. So I think once these two sort of skills are combined, I don't know, at some point in time it will be extremely valuable. At least that's my going hypothesis at the
Okay,
moment,
so
and then my PhD work.
let's ask about your PhD. The young people I listen to are often agonizing whether to do a PhD or not to do a PhD, some of them, because everybody knows PhD is hard. And it
Yeah.
takes toll on you, mental, physical, and generally people at your age don't start a PhD. So what's the motive here? And how do you expect to handle all the stress that comes with it?
This question was asked in my interview as well, and so I gave this typical response that there are transferable skills, and then I want to combine sort of academic research with practical experience that I have, and then bridge the gap between academia and industry, and so on and so forth. But then before the end of the interview, they asked once again, like, you have a comfortable life, and then why do you want to do this? And I said that there is something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. So what I will say is maybe it's, I don't know, it's a there is something that drives you. I don't know what that's, how to sort of articulate that something. Maybe it's a little bit of passion for knowledge, for the sake of it. It doesn't have to have a grand application. I'm going to change the world. No, I'm just going to maybe understand a teeny tiny part of reality a little bit more. I don't know whether there'll be any commercial rewards for that, or I don't know. So for me, I'm not looking for teaching as a career because for many at this age, it could be a great pivot to have a PhD, because at a bare minimum, a PhD is more like a driving license. No matter how much I want to become an Uber driver, I can't if I don't have a driving license. So it's a driving license at a bare minimum. On a higher side, it's an opportunity to, I don't know, make a lasting impact on the world around you. I don't know. It's somewhere in between reality, I think.
All right, good. Any advice you have for young people?
No advice.
No advice from your
No
own.
advice at all.
People don't ask
No.
you how they can get into this field and things like that.
The reason I will say no advice, I thought about this question before. I took a walk in the evening before this conversation, and I kind of anticipated this question. So, and I thought about this. So my response is, in research we call it, the external validity of the study.
Yes.
So I don't know. My experience are very unique. What I have gone through are very extremely unique set of circumstances. They were from a certain perspective. I don't know. I think whatever advice which is out there, I don't think it's going to work extremely like exactly well. So yeah, that's why I don't have any advice. One has to sort of carve their own sort of niche through their own learning process. Obviously, there are obvious advices like work hard, but then it doesn't help really. Not
By the
really.
way,
So
I think I saw on your profile that you had been in London also, right? So you're quite an international experience. I mean, obviously, you must have been to the headquarters of GIZ many times, and you've also been in London. So tell us about how it feels to have this international exposure? Because the young people, they are curious. So I am,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell us about it.
Two things. One is that I was in London for 1 year,
Yeah,
so it's not a lot of time,
yeah,
frankly. And then the other thing is that I have been to GIZ headquarters, I think twice
yeah,
or thrice, yeah,
yeah,
something like that. So it's
yeah.
both of the things are, it's not a lot of time, frankly. Or
Okay.
maybe it's a lot of time, I don't know.
Yeah,
But so my time in London was engaging because I always had this desire to see what does it feel to be among the so-called best of the best minds.
mm.
How does it feel? Beyond what I wrote in my statement of purpose. Obviously,
Mm,
I wrote that I want to combine, and that's the real reason also because
mm.
until so I joined in 2019 London School of Economics, and I fortunately got the Commonwealth Scholarship. Hence LSE. Otherwise, I was on my way to Johns Hopkins, which I would have gone if had it
Yeah,
not been LSE
yeah,
or Chicago Harris, either of these two.
mm,
So my experience was quite enriching. First of all, because I got Commonwealth scholarship, so that took away a lot of pressure from me.
yeah,
Because then I could really immerse myself intellectually speaking. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's a lot of stress. I
yeah,
have seen it, frankly.
yeah,
Once if the student has taken debt,
mm,
it is a different experience. So
mm,
my perspective will be very different. How I experienced my time in London.
yeah,
It was good because it taught I learned sort of how to read academic papers, because there is a certain way to do that, and then also writing, because academic writing uh, comes with structured training. It won't happen by itself. So,
yeah,
I mean, it can happen by itself, but it's gonna take a while and a lot of effort. So,
mm,
my ability to sift through academic literature, to
mm,
distill lessons from it, and then write in a language that appeals to the academic world, I
mm.
think that got improved when I was there. And
Oh,
then my degree was Master of Public Policy, and I chose this program because I had business management background, and then a lot of problems are are centered upon public goods,
yeah,
which are essential. So there is no private market for such things, and therefore the training I felt was kind of inadequate.
yeah,
And I thought, I need to complement it. But then at the same time, and this was 2015 when I first wanted to do. So I applied to Germany, Hertie School of
yeah,
Governance. I got through, but then there was no scholarship, and I realized that I'm getting to do what somebody who graduates from there aspires to do.
yeah,
So why let me just go, like, continue building upon my
mm,
professional experience.
mm,
But then in 2018, I thought, it's I'm gonna give it all my effort, and then I
yeah,
applied and I got through. So it was a good experience overall. I enjoyed interacting with colleagues and students from many countries. The professors used to
mm.
talk about their own books and papers that they wrote, either themselves or in
Mm,
collaboration with other leading universities across
mm.
the world. It was quite a transformative experience.
So was all this decision making your own, or you had some guide or mentor, or how did you make? Young people want to know how you made all these decisions.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's maybe I should have consulted. I mean, not much. I applied for this is from a scholarship point of view, because I think securing admission. I don't think it's. I'm just saying, if you have certain pedigree and certain work experience, it's gonna be a fairly straightforward process.
Okay.
What's rare and what's difficult is having full scholarship. That's
Yeah.
where I think, because still remember that day there was a list by Ministry of Human Resource Development, now Ministry of Education, that PDF has had 15 names and my name was the last name.
Yeah.
And so the 15 people got Commonwealth Master's Scholarship that day from India.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself that, look, what was the fault of the 16th guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Equally good, maybe better, maybe
Yeah.
better. Uh, but anyway, I understood that in a very different context when I understood the difference in difference method. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
an economics joke for some other conversation. But uh, but no, so I did not talk to many people. Although I had somebody who had a mid-career master's degree at Harvard. So Deepak Dogra, I'm very grateful to him because he reviewed my essays in 2017 when I applied um, uh, for that year. I didn't get through. I applied for the Fulbright scholarship and I didn't get through. But he reviewed my essays. He gave me a lot of feedback. So the version that I was working on was the sort of, I will say, seventh or eighth variant that I was
Yeah.
working on. So there was revision in 2015 when I applied to Hertie, then Fulbright in 2017, then 2018 is when there was a lot of feedback from many professionals, many
Yeah.
academic advisors and all that. But yeah, so it was, I was fortunate to have a lot of people supporting me along the way.
Okay. Wonderful. Anything else you want to add here?
I think, I mean, you are a PhD, so and from MIT nonetheless, which is, I think you can't go higher than that on this planet. I don't know. I mean, what do you feel? I mean, from an academic training point of view, how does it in retrospect, is it better to be a practitioner and affect change in real world, or answer the why questions, be in academia, and then be the brains behind that eventually leads to big breakthroughs in practice. Both are deeply
Okay. But I
interconnected.
can answer that question. To me, it was clear, how economists talk about comparative advantage, proper comparative advantage, not what people in English call comparative, in normal
Yeah,
language call
sure.
comparative advantage. So my comparative advantage was in applied work. I mean, even if I was very good in theoretical applied work, very good doesn't cut it.
Mm.
You have to be excellent. And I thought even if I'm very good in applied work, then others aren't that. So I have a comparative advantage in applied work. Okay. But the problem, of course, was that I knew nothing about the real world. I was a theoretical guy. But as it happened, and I used to never bother. People used to say, this is what happens in the real world. And I said, why are you coming to me? You go and talk to somebody else who's ruining the real world. Don't come to me.
Right.
But as it happened, coincidences happen in life. I was a professor, and one of the students, one of the senior faculty members had sent her to me, said, listen, you go to Subodh and make him, we have 3 people at that time in the committee, you take him as one of your committee members. He's very good technically, this, that, and all. Fine. So she came to me and she says, I have tons of experience, this, that. She's older than I said, forget it. I don't care about anything. I only know theory. So we had a lot of fights, and then finally we agreed. She says, listen, if you help me with your theory, I'll do your theory. I said, fine. Then she went out and she got her PhD and she got a job. And then one day she called me and said, hey, now you come and work for me. I said, what? I don't know anything about what you do. She says, yeah, we know you don't know anything about what you do, but you come here and work for me. And, I have a very small unit. You come, set it up so that we get it theoretically right. We do things well. And by the way, we pay very well. So I said, good, I will do it. So after that, it was clear that, I could do academically oriented applied work. So I was in between the theory and the application. I was not going to be able to make an outstanding theoretical research contribution. I mean, there are millions of journals that I could publish in B-level journals, but I said, what's the point? I can do A-level applied, academically oriented applied work. So that was the way it went, and everybody you are an independent consultant, so am I. But they know that I don't know anything about the subject. They just know that he will think it through, and he will be theoretical. So I mean, just to give an example, one of my former students, he went to work for the U.S. Postal Service. And one day he sent me a question. He said, Subodh, can you please answer this question? So I said, okay. Then instead of answering it, the internet was hardly there. I wrote a 10-page note. I sent it to him. And those days there were print copies. We couldn't really have the. So he sent it around, and then somebody looked at it and said, hey, let's hire this guy as a consultant. So I was worth, and they paid bloody well. So it was great, because you do this kind of academic look at real issues that the people are. I also had some work at the World Bank on the side, because the World Bank doesn't pay as much as the US consulting world. It was only a little bit of side work. And then one day, one of those fellows said, Subodh, I know what you are doing. Okay. You're just wasting your life. You're not born to do this. I said, what do you mean you are not born? Listen, look at you. Were you born to fix the stupid rates of the Postal Service to the second decimal place? I said, no, you come and help me develop the project for rural solar in Indonesia. Obviously, he knew that I don't know anything about it. He said, that's fine. Will you do it? I said, but I still have this Postal Service work. So then I was sending faxes from Jakarta to the Postal Service, and they said, no, this can't work. You either work as a consultant for us on call, or you don't. So then I said, fine, let me just do this World Bank work. So, but I wasn't searching for work. I mean, look, I had a contract I didn't want a job, but I had a contract with the World Bank as a short-term consultant every year for 30 years. So there was no sort of, but they knew that, look, this guy is going to do what he wants to do. Let him do it. He'll tell us something new every now and then. And, that project in Indonesia was the first rural solar project in the world, anywhere of any type. And it was, at that time, people used to try to do solar power for 5,000 households or 10,000, like 2 or 3 villages. I said, forget it, guys. I'm going to do 2 lakh households. A lot of debate and discussion and lot of resistance, but we got it through. And in the end, the president of Indonesia inaugurated the project. That's why I wanted 2 lakh, so that I can get the president of the country to inaugurate the project. And one of the fellows, one banker whom I had met, I said, can you please finance these? He says, but don't you know this is too risky? I said, yes, I know it's too risky, but you'll have your photograph with the president of the country. He says, how can you assure that? I said, take the chance that the president will know. He says, okay, in that case, I'll put it in my special projects unit. So, we worked our way through the real world, but sticking to the theory. And the subsidy design, ultimately, the minister objected. He said, no, this is nonsense. How can you do this? So then my team said, you go to the minister and you explain. Kindly, you have hassled us into theory, and now you go ahead. So I went to the minister. You get 2 minutes, No minister is free more than 2 minutes. They're bored, they have too many things. Anyway, we got it through the minister, and we copied it into Sri Lanka and now in Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh, we have 6 million households in rural areas with solar panels.
Right.
But so the freedom to think theoretically, but about applied issues. So that's, and to be, not tied down to norms. Once you take a job, you're tied down to the norms of the place. And for me, that was very difficult. Because I'm a little bit I'm not quirky in my output, I'm quirky in my work. I told this World Bank guys, if you have a meeting at 9 o'clock, you please give me 2 days notice. Otherwise, you can expect me to maybe miss it. And if you want to fire me, that's your choice. Okay. You can fire me, but I am not coming to your 9 o'clock meeting because it's all rush hour and all, and I can't be bothered about it. So, or you give me 2 days notice so that I can rearrange my life. So anyway, it was great fun. It's still great fun to have the ability to think about applied issues theoretically. And so, I mean, currently I'm involved in economic legal work, which I had no idea even existed 5 years ago. Because they say, yeah, you don't know anything, but can you please do it? Fine. Okay, so this is sort of, what can I say? Just lucky to have that ability and that chap, that you have that MIT chap. Okay, people trust you. That look, this guy can think things through. Don't ask any question. I said, fine, can you do it? Anyway, let me not talk about myself, but that's how it was. That look, you can do things. And there was always a little bit of, what should I say, in the normal distribution outside plus minus 1 sigma. Not within, you know. So
No, I think based on what you say, I think you were two standard deviations to the right.
no,
On the
I'm not
positives.
that crazy. Not that crazy. Close to 2, but not outside 2. Okay.
Sure.
Right from class 9, as I look back, it was obvious. Once the English teacher said to me, summoned me privately, which was, very strict school. You don't speak to your teacher. You can't raise your hand in your class and speak. It's old days. I said, listen, if you don't want to do your English homework, just submit a blank book so that others don't know that you and I have this deal. Just submit blank. I'll give you a pass mark even if you have not done it. Okay, fine. Why? Because if I wanted to do it, I did it. If I have a good job, if I didn't want to do it, I did a bad job. So the teacher knew that this guy is crazy. The output is good, but he's not good.
Right.
And there's no outline in the essays. I said, why do you want outlined? I've I've written books, but I don't have an outline. I just write. I said, outline means nowadays I talk professionally and say outline means I'm prisoner of my yesterday's thinking. So why should I be a prisoner of my yesterday's thinking? Please tell me. I'm thinking new, like you are optimizing, right? So as I'm optimizing today, why should I do what I thought yesterday? I'm thinking new today. So I will write it what my thought is today. And that's how this channel came up, because just out of the blue, think it up. There's no research, no planning, no discussion, nothing. Just wake up one day and say, hey, listen, by now I knew that, first of all, we had all become video savvy because of the pandemic. Right? Otherwise, my generation was text-based. Right? So we become video savvy, and then I had met many young people through college that they are very good. I said, bloody hell, nobody gives them a chance to speak. Why don't I do it? So I said, fine. And there's no cost because I'm anyway paying my monthly Zoom fee anyway. I have a webcam, I have a laptop, I can have a channel.
Well, there's a cost, and I will say it's a contribution because your time is valuable, and you set aside 1 hour for me.
So the only cost is my time, right?
Which is a big one. I mean,
No,
that's what I'm
big.
trying to say. So your contribution is that proportionately that
actually,
good.
Now that it's been 1.5 years, actually the cost benefit analysis as economists do, and not in financial terms, but in economic benefit terms.
Right, sure.
In economic terms, it's a great success because the young people are so benefited. 1 hour of time with me, I'm 19 years old, and wow.
Right.
They come prepared, not like you, they come prepared, and they have thought things through. And it's a preparation they have never done, and nobody will give them a chance. So it really is, and I'm hoping that will become a permanent feature in young people's lives in India, that we scale it up 10 times. Alone, I can't do it, but from where it is now, 10x, so that it becomes a voice for all. So, I mean, when I did it, it was very clear that I want a peaceful revolution. It's a rebellion against my cohort, that you don't understand how good young Indians are. And you would say, I have no time for social media. And you don't realize that social media is it. It's not distraction. It is it.
Yeah.
That's how young life is. And you keep saying, I'm doing real work. Say, no, you're not doing real work. You're doing outdated work. You don't realize it. You don't understand it. Anyway, a lot of talk from me. Let's end it here today. I want to talk to you offline a little
Sure.
bit. Okay. So let's end it here today. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you
but I
so
got
much.
but before that, I want to say something. I mean,
Yeah,
first of
please.
all, now I understand because you were already in gig economy before it became sort of mainstream. You could have had a sort of stable career, a full-time sort of contract, that open-ended contract, but then you took that chance. And then I think the way you connect with the younger generation, I think it's commendable. You are right. The kind of I mean, I think that we are all very fortunate. I'm speaking on their behalf as well. To interact with you is not a it's I will say it would have been impossible without social media, and then without your conscious efforts is what I will say.
Yeah,
So thank you so
yeah.
much for that.
So the thing is that, people, senior people, they are stuck in the past. It's very unfortunate that they don't have a way of handing over responsibility with power to the young people. What they want to do is to say, your responsible power is with me. And that is not going to work.
Mm.
You can't give the young people responsibility and opportunity and no power. Right? You don't have a voice. So my slogan is a voice for all. Get the people. Today's technology allows. No, I'm tech savvy. I was tech savvy all the time. So I'm an early adopter. I'm not a late
Yes.
adopter. I'm an early
Right.
adopter.
Right.
Okay, of new technology, right from the very start. So the whole system is that you are responsible for the future, but keep quiet now. I said, what is this nonsense? You are talking, because I wrote a book, India 2047. And in it
Right.
were some of the constraints that we are facing. I'm going to write one more, but one of the constraints is that we don't give enough power to the young people. They're brimming with energy, they're brimming with enthusiasm, and we just shut it all down.
Right.
You put them in a groove, right? Which is a groove created with your experience of the India that is long gone. And then you
Sure.
put them in that groove and then you kill all of it. Right?
Right.
So this is absurd. So somehow your video has vanished, but you are still there. Anyway, let's end this recording here. I do want to talk to you offline, but let me have you have the last word.
Sure. No, thank you so much for the opportunity. There was somebody at the door, so I just told them to leave the
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
thank you, Manoj. It is a great thing to see that young people are taking advantage of the opportunities. As you said, there's a pivot, and pivot means non-linearity, risk-taking, and I hear it all the time that people. There's a guy who told me, "Sir, I did BA Econ, didn't mean anything to me. I became a musician in a band, fixing things and all. Doesn't mean anything to me." Now he's into regenerative agriculture. So but he's good at it. He's finally found what he's good at.
right.
Right? So, but then people will say, where's your degree? Where's your this? Where's your that? And somebody did tell me that, my lack of a BA degree in the right field is still a hassle. I say, this is the problem of India, that they don't give the young based on their abilities. They still go by the chap only. I want to break that chap. So I say, look, I don't care. Some young people say, I have no accomplishments. I said, but you have hopes, you have aspirations. Talk about it. Okay, enough of talk. I do want to talk to you offline a
Sure.
bit. Let's
Right.
end it here today. And thank you
Sure.
so much for being here. It was a great pleasure to listen. Okay, bye everybody. I'll be back.
Thank you, Dr. Madhav. Bye.